Cancer feels like a modern nightmare, but it did not begin with factories, processed food, or the way we live now. It begins much deeper, inside the oldest rule of life. Cells must divide, and sometimes, division makes mistakes. Somewhere in the body, one cell copies itself incorrectly. Then another. Then a quiet error becomes something that refuses to stop growing. That is what makes cancer so terrifying. It does not invade from outside. It rises from the same machinery that keeps us alive. For years, people have imagined cancer as a disease of the modern world. Pollution, cigarettes, chemicals, radiation, bad diets, longer lives. And those things do matter. But they are not where the story begins. The story is far older than civilization. In 2016, researchers studying fossils from South Africa found something almost impossible to ignore: cancer in a human ancestor. It was not a complete skeleton, not a dramatic skull, not something that looked important at first glance. It was a small foot bone, a metatarsal, from a creature that lived roughly 1.7 million years ago. The species is still debated. It may have been Australopithecus, or it may have belonged to an early member of Homo. But the bone carried clear evidence of osteosarcoma, a malignant bone cancer still diagnosed in humans today. This was not a crack, not an infection, not an old injury healing badly. It was a tumor growing inside an ancient body. That creature walked the earth long before our species existed, and yet the same biological enemy was already there. In the same broad period, scientists also identified a benign spinal tumor in another ancient skeleton. Two abnormal growths in fossils nearly 2 million years old reveal something profound. Cancer is not new. Cancer is ancient. And the evidence we have is probably only a tiny fraction of the truth, because most cancers do not attack bone first. Cancer often begins in soft tissue, organs, skin, blood, glands. But soft tissue usually vanishes before it can fossilize. Bones survive. Flesh disappears. So the fossil record is not a full archive. It is only the part that stone allowed us to keep. That is why mummies matter so much. They preserve bodies in ways ordinary burials almost never can. Using CT scans and advanced imaging, researchers have found tumors in Egyptian mummies thousands of years old. There are ancient cases of breast cancer, prostate cancer, bone tumors, and possible blood cancers preserved across time. The dead began telling us what living history forgot. Ancient people were not protected from cancer. They simply lacked the tools to see most of it, name most of it, or understand where it came from. But they noticed. Ancient Egyptian medical texts described hard masses in the breast and admitted something devastating. There was no treatment. Thousands of years ago, a physician looked at a tumor and wrote down the same helplessness families still fear today. Later, Hippocrates used the Greek word karkinos, meaning crab, because tumors seem to reach outward like claws. The Roman physician Celsus translated that idea into Latin as cancer. The word survived because the disease did too. Across civilizations, people watched cancer, described cancer, feared cancer, and tried to explain it without knowing about cells or DNA. To understand why cancer is so old, we have to stop treating it like an invader and see it as a risk built into life. Every multicellular body is a compromise. Cells must divide to grow, repair wounds, replace tissue, and keep the organism alive. But every division is a chance for genetic instructions to be copied imperfectly. Usually, the body catches the error. Repair systems fix damaged DNA. Immune cells patrol the body. Defective cells are often destroyed before they become dangerous. But sometimes one cell escapes, keeps dividing. It ignores signals to stop. It takes resources and invades the tissue around it. That is cancer. Not chaos from nowhere, but the failure of control inside the most basic process of living. This is why cancer is not limited to humans. Dinosaurs had tumors. Ancient fish had tumors. Even plants can develop cancer-like growths. Anything that grows by dividing cells carries the possibility that one of those cells will break the rules. So did ancient humans have less cancer than we do? Probably yes, but the reason is not simply that their world was cleaner. The largest reason is time. Many ancient humans died young from infection, wounds, starvation, childbirth, predators, or untreated disease. If someone died at 30, many cancers never had enough decades to develop into something visible or fatal. Cancer is often a disease of accumulated chances. More years mean more cell divisions. More divisions mean more opportunities for failure. Ancient people also lived with different risks. They did not smoke industrial cigarettes or inhale factory pollution every day. They ate unprocessed foods and moved constantly. Those factors may have reduced certain forms of cancer. But their world was not a cancer-free paradise. Campfire smoke irritated lungs. Parasites caused chronic inflammation. Sun exposure damaged skin. They had risks we often forget, and they lacked screening, surgery, antibiotics, chemotherapy, or the ability to diagnose internal disease. Many people probably died from cancers nobody could identify. A hidden tumor could end a life without ever being named. Today, cancer seems everywhere partly because we live long enough to meet it, and because medicine can finally find it. Scans can reveal tumors smaller than a fingernail. Blood tests can detect warning signs no ancient physician could have imagined. Modern life also adds real dangers. Tobacco, obesity, processed meats, ultraviolet radiation, and chemical exposures can increase specific cancer risks. But the idea that cancer appeared only because of civilization is false. Civilization changed cancer. It did not create it. Cancer has followed life for millions of years because it is woven into the biology of multicellular organisms. That ancient history is not just depressing. It is useful because it turns cancer into an evolutionary puzzle. One of the strangest questions is why some huge animals do not get cancer as often as simple mathematics suggests. Elephants have far more cells than humans and live for many decades. By basic probability, they should develop far more cancer. But they do not. Part of the reason appears to involve extra copies of a tumor suppressor gene called TP53. This gene helps respond when DNA is damaged. Humans have one main copy. Elephants carry many more. When an elephant cell detects serious genetic damage, it can trigger self-destruction before the mistake becomes a tumor. That is evolution fighting cancer with a brutal rule. If the cell becomes dangerous, remove it immediately. Scientists study these animals because their bodies may contain strategies that human medicine has not fully learned to imitate. The fossil record helps too. Ancient tumors show how long this struggle has existed and how cancer changes through time. A foot bone from 1.7 million years ago is not just a medical curiosity. It is a message from deep history. Before cities, before writing, before modern humans, before medicine, a cell in an ancient body had already rebelled. For nearly all of our existence, we could do almost nothing. We observed tumors, feared them, named them after crabs, and watched them win. But now, for the first time, humans are learning to answer cancer in its own language. Cells, genes, immunity, and DNA. Chemotherapy, immunotherapy, early detection, targeted treatment, genetic research, and cancer-preventing vaccines have changed the oldest battle our lineage has known. Cancer is older than our species, older than our languages, older than every civilization we have ever built. But age does not make an enemy invincible. After almost 2 million years, we are finally learning how to make it lose.